Hi viewers, welcome to our channel Max IELTS tutorial. If you are a first time viewer of a channel, then please subscribe our channel. In our previous video, we had an overview of matching heading, labeling diagram and sentence completion type of questions. In this video, we shall explore table completion, matching feature type of questions and yes, no, not given type of questions. You can pause the video and go through the passage and the questions that follow them. If you need the reading passage and the questions for your future reference, you can find the same in our description. I will read the passage now and you can follow along with me. It is your choice, or is it really? As we move from the industrial age to the information age, social demands on our mental capabilities are no less taxing. We are constantly required to process a wide range of information to make decisions. Sometimes these decisions are trivial, such as what marmalade to buy. Other times the stakes are higher, such as deciding which symptoms to report to the doctor. However, the fact that we are accustomed to processing large amounts of information does not mean that we are better at it. Our sensory and cognitive systems have systematic ways of failing of which we are often, perhaps blissfully unaware. Imagine that you are taking a walk in your local city park when a tourist approaches you asking for directions. During the conversation, two men carrying a door pass between the two of you. If the person asking for directions has changed places with one of the people carrying the door, would you notice? Research suggests that you might not. Harvard psychologists Simon and Levy conducted a field study using this exact setup and found that the change in identity went unnoticed by 7 of the 15 participants. This phenomenon has been termed change blindness and refers to the difficulty that observers have in noticing changes to visual scenes when the changes are accompanied by some other visual disturbances. Over the past decade, the change blindness phenomenon has been replicated many times. Especially noteworthy is an experiment by Davis and Hine, who studied whether change blindness affects eyewitness identification. Specifically, participants were presented with a video enactment of a burglary. In the video, a man entered a house, walking through the different rooms and putting valuables into a knapsack. However, the identity of the burglar changed after the first half of the film, while the initial burglar was out of sight. Out of the 80 participants, 49 did not notice the change of burglar's identity, suggesting that blindness may have serious implication for criminal proceedings. To most of us, it seems bizarre that people could miss such obvious changes while they are paying active attention. However, to catch those changes, attention must be targeted to the changing feature. In the study described above, participants were likely not to have been expecting the change to happen, and so their attention may have been focused on the valuables the burglar was stealing rather than the burglar. Drawing from change blindness research, scientists have come to the conclusion that we perceive the world as much less detailed than previously thought. Rather than monitoring all of the visual details that surround us, we seem to focus our attention only on those features that are currently meaningful or important, ignoring those that are relevant to our current needs and goals. Thus, at any given time, our representation of the world surrounding us is crude and incomplete. making it possible for changes or manipulations to go undeducted. Given the difficulty people have in noticing changes to visual stimuli, one may wonder what would happen if these changes concern the decision people make. To examine choice blindness, Hall and colleagues invited supermarket customers to sample two different kinds of jams and teas. After participants had tasted or smelled both samples, they indicated which one they preferred. Subsequently, they were purportedly given another sample of their preferred choice. On half of the trials, however, these were samples of non chosen jam or tea. As expected, only about one third of the participants detected this manipulation. Based on these findings, Hall and colleagues proposed that choice blindness is a phenomena that occurs not only for choices involving visual material but also for choices involving gustatory and olfactory information. Involving auditory stimuli. Specifically, participants had to listen to three pairs of voices and decide for each pair which voice they found more sympathetic or more criminal. The voice was then presented again. However, the outcome was manipulated for the second voice pair, and participants were presented with the non chosen voice. Replicating the findings by Hall and colleagues, only 29% of the participants detected this change. Meckelberg, Jelicic, and Peters investigated choice blindness for intensity ratings of one's own psychological symptoms. Their participants had to rate the frequency with which they experienced 90 common symptoms on a 5-point scale. Prior to a follow up interview, the researchers inflated ratings from two assumptions by 2 points. For example, when participants had rated their feelings of shyness as 2, that is occasionally, it was changed to 4, that is all time. This time, more than half, that is 57% of the 28 participants were blind to the symptom rating escalation and accepted it as their own symptom intensity rating. This demonstrates that blindness is not limited to recent preference selections but can also occur for intensity and frequency. Together, these studies suggest that choice blindness can occur in a wide variety of situations and can have serious implications for medical and judicial outcomes. Future research is needed to determine how, in those situations, choice blindness can be avoided. The first set of questions that follows the passage is a table completion. If you have a look at the table, the content of the table is about experiments in change blindness. Moreover, it is about Simons and Levy and Davis and Hines experiment. So, when you skim through the passage, it is paragraph B and C which exposes us to the experiments done by Simons and Levis and Davis and Hines. Therefore, we shall narrow down our concentration to paragraph B and C. Coming down to the table, the first answer which we have to figure out is the purpose of experiment performed by Simon and Levy. It is passage B that gives us the details about Simon and Levy's experiment. The question states that to illustrate change blindness caused by a dash such as an object. So, we should search for the purpose of this experiment, which is stated in passage B. Passage B states that change blindness refers to the difficulty that observers have in noticing changes to visual scenes when the changes are accompanied by some other visual disturbances. So, the answer for the first question is visual disturbance. Moving on to the second question, The answer, which we will have to skim through, is the situation for participants. In passage B, the situation under which the experiment is conducted is when there is a conversation with a stranger. The situation stated in paragraph B goes like this. Imagine that you are taking a walk in your local city park when a tourist approaches you asking for directions. And the question is giving dash to a stranger. So, the answer for this question is giving some directions or just direction to a stranger. The feature which we will have to search for the third question is the focus of participants' attention. In passage B, the focus of the person was in the movement of the door. This is not a direct answer, it is a paraphrased answer. The last sentence of the para B states that this phenomena has been termed change blindness and refers to the difficulty that observers have in noticing changes to visual scenes. Example, the person swap. When the changes are accompanied by some other visual disturbances, example, the passing of the door. Passing of the door is paraphrased as the movement of dash in the question. Hence, the answer for this question can either be a door or the door. Moving to the next question, again we have to find out the purpose of the experiment conducted by Davis and Haim. To answer this question, we can get this information from para C. When you go through the para, you can find the second sentence stating that especially noteworthy is an experiment by Davis and Hain who studied whether change blindness affects eyewitness identification. So, the answer for this question goes like to assess the impact of change blindness on identification by eyewitness. The fifth question states the focus of participants' attention. When we look through the same para, we come across the sentence specifically, participants were presented with a video enactment of burglary. In the video, a man entered a house walking through the different rooms and putting valuables into a knapsack. So, the answer for the last question is the collection of valuables. We shall now move on to the next set of questions. The next two questions are of matching feature type. Question 6 goes like this. We will have to choose two statements that are true for both the supermarket and voice experiments. So, we are supposed to refer to para F and G as they are the ones which give us information about supermarket and voice experiments respectively. So, first we shall go through para F. Before reading the para, we shall first go through the first feature that is given in the question. The researchers focused on non visual material. When we glimpse through the para states that based on these findings, Hall and colleagues propose that choice blindness is a phenomena that occurs not only for choice involving visual material, but also for choices involving gustatory and olfactory information. Hence, we can come to the conclusion that feature A matches with the information given in para F. Moving on to the second feature, option B. The participants were asked to explain their preferences. When you go through the para, you will not be able to find any information supporting feature B. So, we shall move on to the next feature. Feature C states that some of the choices made by the participants were altered. Again, when you read through the para, you can notice an information stating that after participants had tasted or smelled both samples, they indicated which one they preferred. Subsequently, they were purportedly given another sample of their preferred choice. On half of the trials, however, these were samples of the non chosen jam or tea. This piece of information clearly states that feature C matches with para F. Let's look at the next feature. Feature D states that the participants were influenced by each other's choices. There is no information matching this feature. Hence, we shall move on to the next feature. The last feature states that percentage results were surprisingly low. Again, there are no evidences from the para to support or match this feature. Only features A and C match with the information given about supermarket. Now, we shall move on to the next para that states about voice experiment. That is para G. We will have to repeat the same process again. That is going through one feature by feature. As we all know, feature A is the researchers focused on visual material. Skimming through the para states that recently the phenomenon has also been replicated for choices involving auditory stimuli. Auditory stimuli is obviously a non visual material. Hence, feature A goes hand in hand with para G. Now, look at the second feature. The participants were asked to explain their preferences. There are no keywords in the paragraph matching with feature B, so we shall skip this feature. Feature C states that some of the choices made by the participants were altered. You can notice that the paragraph states that participants had to listen to three pairs of voices and decide for each pair which voice they found more sympathetic or more criminal. The voice was then presented again. However, the outcome was manipulated for the second voice pair, and participants were presented with non chosen voice. Hence, it is crystal clear that feature C is complementing the para. Let us check the next feature. The participants were influenced by each other's choices. There are no paraphrased or direct words in the passage that match with feature D. So, we shall move on to the next feature. Percentage results were surprisingly low in the last feature given to us. Again, this feature also does not match with the paragraph. We are now done with going through all the features. We shall start comparing the features of both the paragraphs. It is quite transparent that only feature A and C are true for both the supermarket and voice experiment. We shall now continue with the next question. Choose two letters A to E. Which two statements are true for the psychology experiment conducted by Melchizedek, Jelicic, and Peters? We are given a set of statements along which we must select two statements which are true for psychology experiment conducted. When you skim through the passage, you can find that para H is the one that explains about this particular experiment. Look at the first statement. The participants had to select their most common symptoms. Now, if you go through the para, you can find that there is no such information provided. Hence, we shall move on with the next statement. The participants gave each symptom a 1 to 5 rating. Skimming through the para, you can notice that the second sentence states that the participants had to rate the frequency with which they experienced 90 common symptoms. Example: anxiety, lack of concentration, stress, headaches, etc. on a 5-point scale. This sentence conveys that statement B is true with respect to the psychology experiment. Coming to statement C, shyness proved to be the most highly rated symptoms, and statement D states that The participants change their mind about some of their ratings. Both these statements do not agree with the views of the author. Therefore, we shall eliminate these two statements and consider the last statement now. The researchers focused on the strength and regularity of symptoms. If you look through the passage keenly, the last sentence states that this demonstrates that blindness is not limited to recent preference selection, but can also occur for intensity and frequency. The words intensity and frequency are paraphrased as strength and regularity in the statement. Hence, the statement is true with respect to the experiment. We are now done with matching feature type of questions. We shall move on to the next set of questions. The next set of questions are yes, no, and not given type of questions. You will have to mark a given statement as yes if the statement agrees with the claims of the writer. A given statement must be marked as no if the statement disagrees with the claims of the writer. And you must mark a given statement as not given if it is impossible to say what the writer thinks about this. This is the list of questions. We shall first take up the eighth question. Doctors make decisions according to the symptoms that a patient describes. It is para A that talks about decisions which we take with respect to doctors. But when we go through the paragraph, we are not able to get any data about what decisions doctors make. So, the answer for this question is not given. Moving on to the ninth question, the question is our ability to deal with a lot of input material has improved over time. The writer speaks about this also in para A. He says that however, the fact that we are accustomed to processing large amounts of information does not mean that we are better at it. It is clearly seen that the writer's view is contradicting the given statement. So, we shall mark the answer as no. Moving forward to the next question, the 10th question states that we tend to know when we have made an error of judgment. When we go through the same paragraph, we can notice that the writer has mentioned that our sensory and cognitive systems have systematic ways of failing, of which we are often, perhaps, blissfully unaware. Again, you can see that there is a contradiction. Hence, the answer for this question is no. Having a look at the 11th question, this question states that a legal trial could be significantly affected by change blindness. In the given passage, it is paragraph C that gives us information about effects of change blindness. When we skim through this para, the writer states that out of the 80 participants, 49 did not notice that the change of the burglar's identity, suggesting that change blindness may have serious implications for criminal proceedings. Having serious implications for criminal proceedings has been paraphrased as legal trial could be significantly affected. Since both the statement and the writer's view are the same, we will be marking the answer as yes. The last question that states scientists have concluded that we try to take in as much detail as possible from our surroundings. The writer mentions information related to this particular content in para E, which when we go through the para, the last sentence of this para states that thus, at any given time, our representation of the world surrounding us is crude and incomplete, making it possible for changes or manipulation to go undetected. So, this view of the writer compels us to mark the answer for this question as yes. We are done exploring all the questions with respect to this reading passage. Hope you have got a clear idea of how to go about answering the table completion, matching feature, and yes, no, not given type of question. If the video was informative, then like and share our video. In our next video, we shall discuss about true, false, not given, matching sentence ending, and completing flowchart type of questions. Subscribe our channel for more videos and click on the bell button to get notification of our future videos. You can also follow us on our Instagram and Facebook pages.